at the edge of a forest in the valley of the Green River, a team of detectives works.
In February of 2004, 34-year-old Christine Hickman flips through the channels and stops on the story of a serial killer.
So we knew we had a serial killer, obviously, working here.
Flashing through Christine's mind is an image of her cousin, Julie Hill. For most of her life, Christine had believed Julie ran away from home. Then Christine began to hear family rumors that Julie had actually been murdered. Family gossip lays the murder at the feet of Julie Hill's abusive boyfriend at the time, a Duluth native named Donald Bloomer. Hickman gets on the phone to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, lays out her situation, and asks for advice.
I reached a lady detective. I laid out what I had for her, and she listened, and she asked questions. And when I was through, she said, by all means, you contact the Duluth police, you tell them you want an investigation, and she stressed, and you don't take no for an answer.
I got a phone call from a lady named Christine Hickman. She lives in Las Vegas. And Christine has a story to tell.
Bob Erspamer is a detective with the Duluth Police Department.
We have to really follow
After
up
talking to Christine, he gathers together his homicide team and lays out what he knows.
She says that her cousin, a girl named Julie Hill, was reported missing to the Duluth Police Department in July of 1980. She said that she was at a family gathering discussing Julie, and since the family is so spread out over the United States, they don't get together often, and they all started realizing that nobody's seen Julie since the day she was reported missing.
Laura Marquardt is one of the detectives in the meeting and is given the job of following up with Julie Hill's family.
I started talking to family members and getting a better idea of who Julie Hill was, what the family thought was going on back then. I started having, little flags go up in my head that maybe there is something more going on.
Marquardt's initial legwork convinces her there might be something to Christine Hickman's story, that Julie Hill might in fact have been murdered, and that her old boyfriend Donald Bloomer might be good for it.
He was very controlling, so if she were wanting to leave, this would not be a very good thing from his perspective. His reaction to this would be to control it if she was going to leave.
He had been excavating in his yard just prior to Julie going missing. And then she heard that when Julie's mom went to check with Bloomer to see if he had seen Julie, this was all filled in. And she thought that that was suspicious and said, maybe it's something, maybe it's not, but it's at least a place to get started.
Erspamer and his team have a suspect and some intriguing circumstance. The one thing their homicide lacks, a body. Without a lot in the way of physical evidence, Erspamer decides to shake up his suspect by confronting him. And the detective knows right where to find Donald Bloomer, across the street from the police department.
You need to tell me what happened. You need to explain so Julie can have some peace, so you can have some peace.
He comes up with different scenarios as to what happened to Julie.
She is dead, okay? And I do believe that you had some part, something about what happened.
He's sitting there, he's leaning into me, I'm leaning into him, and he's nodding. He's agreeing with me.
And I don't want you to tell me what you've already told me. You've already told me that dozens of times. And you and I both know that's not the truth.
No, those facts are all wrong. There's a lot of things you said that are
those facts,
wrong.
no, they're not,
Absolutely wrong.
Don. They're not. You can't go on living with this like this, Don.
You're wrong.
In the end, Donald Bloomer sticks to his guns, and cold case detectives have no choice but to get out the backhoe.
We are at 215 West 9th Street in Duluth. This is the site of where the home was where we believe Julie Hill was murdered.
On a Monday morning, a team of detectives descends on Donald Bloomer's property.
Front of the house was about here. Driveway was right along this side here.
They are looking for Julie Hill, or at the very least, an indication that she may have been murdered inside Bloomer's home. Problem is, Donald Bloomer is a pack rat, and the house an utter wreck. After a day of searching, the city building commissioner weighs in, halting police efforts and ordering the building be demolished. Three days later, Donald Bloomer's house goes the way of old things, and the earth underneath is laid bare.
Based on information we had back from about the time she was missing, neighbors and family had mentioned that they saw him digging in the backyard here, digging a hole, and then the digging stopped shortly after Julie disappeared, and he never built anything further on that location. We started to think that there's a high likelihood he buried her right back here.
A backhoe reaches into the earth and begins to dig. Precious little, however, is found.
It is frustrating when you invest that amount of time and you don't find what you were hoping for, don't get that closure for the family. It remains some questions in your mind as to, did we actually uncover all the truth, or is there something else hidden there?
Homicide detectives still don't have their body and resign themselves to another session of give and take with Donald Bloomer. When they return to the interrogation room, however, detectives find a changed man.
Dug a big hole and then
Filled it back
filled
up.
it back in.
Something's changed.
What's changed today?
I think it's time for Julie to come home.
Within 20 minutes of talking with Donald, he tells me that he wants to get down to business, that he has things to tell me.
When you can. That first day when we're all done. Then you put your hand on my shoulder. Time to dump some peace. Carry the burden for a long time. You have a tissue?
Just like that. And then he says it was an accident, and that he needs to tell me about everything that happened, and that he should have told me the first time that we were talking, but he just couldn't. And then he goes on about how it's been haunting him, and that he feels Julie's presence.
It was the night before the 4th of July.
They're gonna go camping and canoeing and target shooting the next day on the 4th of July. So they were practicing loading and unloading this brand new .41 Smith & Wesson revolver that he had gotten that they hadn't used before.
I just picked it up and started pulling the trigger and went around like this, the sights, and she came downstairs, carpeted stairs with her bare feet, didn't even hear her. She came around the corner, smiling, and the gun just went off. I couldn't believe it.
He accidentally pulls the trigger and shoots her. And he happens to shoot her right between the eyes. And she's dead instantly.
Bob Erspamer watches the interview in another room and doesn't believe there was anything accidental about the shot that killed Julie Hill.
That's not a real accidental gunshot. That's where somebody's aiming. That's a very large caliber handgun. So I was suspicious.
Donald Bloomer is arrested and charged with murder. He tells police he wrapped Julie's body in a carpet and dumped it in the woods. A search, however, turns up nothing. Without a body, the DA agrees to a plea of second-degree manslaughter, and Donald Bloomer receives a sentence of 3 years. For Christine Hickman, it seems hardly enough.
I would like to see him receive the same sentence Julie got, but obviously that won't happen. So I have to be grateful for what I have, which is Donald Bloomer is answering to man, and he's answering to the law, and he is behind bars. That is what I have to be grateful for.
Julie's body's still out there. And if by chance, somebody knows something and we get a tip, boy, we'll be out there looking. We really will.